Two main points in the reading of Chapter 4 that were important are what steps are taken before trial and in trial. Something important about these 2 points is to have in mind in civil cases they could prevent from going to court or taking it to trial. Most civil cases are resolved out of trial, but there are certain steps to take out of trial with a lawyer. There is a certain step that the plaintiff has to notice the person they are suing, which is one of the steps that you have to take before going into trial. After reading Chapter 4, I understood a lot more about civil cases and the process to go through them, whether as a plaintiff or as a defendant. There were several details that surprised me while I read the chapter, but one that surprised me the most was the Exhibit 4.6 on page 88 on discovery. I knew in civil cases and criminal cases there was a section in trial when both parties would present their information, but I didn't know discovery was the name of the section. What also surprised me was that there were different techniques to discovery, and the techniques had different purposes to show different information. The techniques under discovery are deposition, interrogation, subpoena ducis tecum, physical or mental examination, and request for administration. The technique I found more surprising was subpoena ducis tecum, because I had never heard of that term before. It was something new that I learned in this chapter. As well as finding the components of discovery, I was also surprised but also a little confused by it. I didn't know if this was only in trial or if the parties had to send out orders to the party that they were suing in order for them to respond in a certain amount of time. For example, if I was suing my business partner for whatever reason the case might be, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to send his or her lawyer a request of administration, or is that only used in the court while the trial is going on in person? And if it is presented in the court, is that where they present their information? Another thing I didn't quite understand was mediation and arbitration. I understand that there was a party takes place to help, that a third party takes place to resolve an issue. But what I don't understand is how these two are different, because they sounded very alike for me. In the description and example they gave in the book on page 97 on chapter 4, they described a arbitration as a third party who makes a decision called an award. I believe the award stands for who wins the resolution, but I'm not sure. That was also confusing, and that's also what I didn't understand. For example, I also didn't understand the example they gave for arbitration. It seemed as they were referring to a arbitration as a thing or a company, not as a person or as a third party. They didn't refer to it as a certain person or as a certain person in a company. They just explained it as something. The whole way the description was written made it a bit more confusing. As well, in the last 2 quizzes I was pleased with chapter 8 because I took my time to read and understand the components of this chapter, as well as I did some research on the words that I didn't understand, because the legal terms are kind of difficult in this book, and it's actually very hard to understand them, because sometimes they mean something that isn't what that's applying to. It has a totally different meaning. But on the quiz on chapter 38, I didn't do as good. I actually did really bad on it, which is I didn't do really good as I did on chapter 8, because I didn't give myself the time or the enough space to read through every chapter and to even reread it, and to also Google some words that I didn't understand, or do my own research on Google for a certain term or a certain definition of something to actually understand what it meant. And something I need to work on in order for that not to happen in the future is I need to give myself more time, and to also manage my time, because I gave myself a lot of time to read chapter 8, but I didn't give myself enough time to read chapter 38, which affected me on my quizzes. And I was in a rush looking through the book trying to find the answers, but it was too hard because the book has a lot of information, and the quizzes don't give you enough time to actually look for the questions and actually get it right.